with the way the economy's going and the way, we look at these sorts of things here, the incumbent players, the shrinking output of the SME in the UK. What would you say to young guys wanting to get into development?
Be opportunity, and there'll always be loopholes. The big boys find them. It's down to us as developers to find our way through. I mean, it's not an easy industry, and I think 10 years ago it'd been a lot easier to get into this game than it is now. But we love what we do. I think we're all pretty good at it in one way or another, and we live on to fight another day, mate.
I think one thing that we can all say that we have done to probably be around and last in a difficult industry is creating cash flow businesses that support and feed into our development businesses. I think it is impossible to start with £0, do developments, and not have a cash flow business of some description that supports it alongside. Unless Daddy's got a revolving credit facility himself, it's just very, very difficult. So I'd say that's an imperative thing. One thing that I would probably go into if it were me, I would start a cash flow business in some sort of professional advisory and fire compliance or something like that, because it's getting worse and worse and worse. Professional fees have gone through the roof. Make a few quid, build a nice cash flowing business within 5 years, and then within that 5 year period, as soon as you start to remove yourself from the day to day, start developing sites. But it isn't easy. If you speak to a developer that developed 10 years ago, the amount of stuff they would have to submit to planning is probably about 5% of what you now have to submit. You'd have planning 5 times quicker. Your build costs were about a third of the cost of the GDV. Your land was about a third of the cost of GDV, and you'd be in and out and move on to the next one. It was a lot more seamless, and it is just more. It is more difficult. But do you look at that from an established developer's perspective and go, that makes our life easier because it's harder now for people to get up to speed to where we're at? So it's a difficult market space because I look at the bigger players and we don't go above 50 units because I don't want to compete with the national home builders who have got 1,000 people in their technical team. Where I'm looking at that going, I don't want that bag. But then is there listeners out there that haven't started development looking at us and going, I don't want to compete with you guys? I would say it's probably one of the most challenging industries and strategy to deliver.
For what you've just said as well, that if you want to be a developer now, you should, and I completely agree, you also need to build another business that cash flows. So like that's how hard it's become.
So you're both saying get 2 jobs, work twice as hard than the next person to succeed in property, which is basically what I feel like we all do.
Which is what you have to do now. That's just the way the market's gone. So for any advice to young guys out there or anyone, I mean, we're all quite young, but if you want to get started in property development, the advice would be don't do it, because if you need motivation to do it, you ain't going to last. And it is just it's a brutal market.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you go and subscribe to the Ground Up Podcast.